Hello, fellow Americans. I'm here to make a video that was requested to me by Miss Penic about the original 13 colonies. In this video, I want to talk about the geography of the colonies, the economy of the colonies, and the colony's natural resources, which obviously connect to its economy. So first, I want to talk about the first of the English colonies that were started on the eastern seaboard in Virginia. I'd like to talk about Jamestown. Jamestown was founded in 1607. It was meant to make money. This was a company that people came here looking for gold. They were looking for things that were of value that they could take back to Europe and sell. The southern colonies have most important natural resource is its coastal plains with its wide rivers and its farmland. In these coastal plains, they grew rice, indigo. They also grew a lot of tobacco, and that's really what saved Jamestown was its tobacco crop, because for a long time people went to Jamestown to try to earn some money, and they're looking for gold and they couldn't find any. And where it ended up becoming important was the tobacco crop. When they finally started to grow tobacco there, that's what really projected their economy. One important thing to know about the economy in the southern colonies is it was very much driven by the very rich, and it was very much driven by slave labor. Starting in 1619, the first African slaves were brought to Virginia, and these slaves were set on different courses as far as what type of plantation, but for all the slaves, work was their whole lives, and escape was virtually impossible, especially during the colonial days, especially during the time before the American Revolution. The next area that I want to talk about is I want to talk about the New England colonies, which sprung up around the town of Plymouth, which was set up in 1619 by the Pilgrims. I mean, you know this story about the Pilgrims coming here for religious freedom, and they're struggling against the elements. One of the things that you need to know about New England is its soil is very rocky and sandy by nature. That's why the Pilgrims needed to learn from the Indians to use fish using fish to plant their crops, and because there was no nutrients in the soil. So because they couldn't grow as much, they had to use other things. For example, they used a lot of timber. They cut down a lot of trees to build ships. Then they used those ships for fishing and trade. So they built cities to be centers of trade, because you have all these ships, and now these ships can bring products, and the products can send raw materials such as iron and timber. And I mentioned rum, which was something in triangular trade, which I'm going to talk about in a second. The third portion is I want to talk about the middle colonies. The middle colonies are basically New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. These colonies were the most diverse colonies as far as different types of people living there. They had a very nice balance between the very cold north and the very hot south. They also had a very good balance. They had large rivers like the Hudson River and the Delaware River, which flowed to New York and Philadelphia, and these large cities in these middle colonies. With the diversity, helped kind of bring the northern colonies and the southern colonies together as a hub of trade. Okay, and with this trade came different types of people and different ideas. The Quakers were in Pennsylvania. The natural resources of the middle colonies, they had nice growing season for cash crops. They grew a wheat, corn. They grew crops that could feed people in the middle colonies. And slavery they had, but it was not as frequent as it was in the South. I mentioned triangular trade earlier. That is a trading system that went from the colonies to Africa to the Caribbean, and each would have a product. The triangular trade would start in Africa, bringing slaves to the Caribbean where they would make sugar, and then that sugar would be taken to New England where it would be turned into rum, and then taken back to Africa where it would be turned into the rum would be sold for slaves. I hope this video has helped you out. Remember, the geography in the South is pretty flat. We have large coastal plains, which is great for growing, broad rivers. You get towards the in the middle colonies, you do have some large rivers, but the hills are getting closer to the ocean. And then when you get up into New England, the mountainous areas are very close to the ocean, which actually makes the rivers run very fast. But it is difficult for growing, especially in New England, because their growing season is so short. Um, Please refer back to these posters for any other questions you have, and make sure that if you would like to ask me any questions, contact me on Edmodo. God bless you, and God bless America.